Hello, everyone. I'm Joe Welu. Thanks so much for tuning in to Expert Insights, where we talk with industry leaders across modern financial services to discuss leadership and innovation. Let's get started. Hey, everyone. Good to be with you. Joined today by Mr. Dan Catinella, our Chief Lending Officer. How you doing, Cat?
Good, Joe. Great. Glad to be here.
Good to be with you, buddy. So, topic for today is talking about best practices for maximizing growth this year. You and I have been involved in a lot of strategic conversations with executives, top producers, partners, and the conversation all rolls up into what are the levers that we have to unlock deal flow, unlock opportunity, and unlock growth this year. And so I thought after our conversation that sharing some of these best practices would be helpful. So today, part one of this series on best practices for maximizing growth, wanted to talk about protecting your pipeline and improving conversions, something that we see a lot about. So maybe start out giving me your perspective on what you see, first of all, what you see as the gaps for a lot of organizations, and maybe start there.
Sure. So I'd start by saying we all know we're in a heavy purchase market for sure. We know that there are significant affordability challenges. We know that first-time home buyers are making up a significant portion of that purchase business. So really the top lenders, we're seeing them all kind of lead with education and advice. Making sure that they really look at their communication from the time they initially, obtain that prospect, all the way through that top of the funnel, and make sure that they're educating them and advising them with the right content and information to really help them get over those barriers of entry, understand how to become mortgage readiness or home buyer readiness. Make sure they understand the things they should be doing, they shouldn't be doing. Don't go out and buy that $70,000 F-150, but make sure that they're.
I think those things
prepared.
are like 80 grand now. I think every car is like 80 grand or more. It seems like
pretty much. I think the average car auto loan now is around $70,000, which is just
oh my
absurd.
gosh. You used to be able to buy a house for that. So
yeah.
So under those are great starting points under the umbrella of protecting your pipeline, okay, and maximizing your conversion, where we see slippage and fallout, right? We have an audit that we've done historically for customers and identifying the gaps where they lose opportunity. And the beginning of the process where somebody applies, fills out a lead form, a lot of those people end up, for lack of a better phrase, hitting the trash can. And what you referenced was, well, why is that? Okay. Lack of personal, consistent communication, lack of high quality education about the process. Basically, another way to say that is a lack of providing value, right? If the consumer is not feeling value early in that funnel, the odds of them walking into an open house, getting called by a consumer direct lender, and getting peeled off somewhere in your pipeline is extremely high. You agree? And is that where
absolutely?
You're going with that?
Listen, we all know this, but people want to deal with people and people that they trust, and people that are feeding them and educating them information and educational content are just going to naturally gravitate to the trust realm. So how do you build trust as quickly as possible at that top of the funnel so that you're viewed as the expert that individual wants to do business with, and you're not just solely looking at or measured on your interest rate that you can offer to the street that particular day?
So I want to talk about a couple of very specific things that we have seen to be best practices for really maximizing your pull through of your pipeline, your conversion, and then ultimately protecting that pipeline, because protecting that pipeline actually includes using intelligence, using data to understand if they're shopping for you, right? So one of the key things we've seen really move the needle for lenders that we partner with is leveraging customer intelligence or data insights around credit triggers, credit behavior. So if I take an application from a consumer and they're in a dormant status, meaning they didn't move through, maybe they didn't find a house yet, you ideally want to be monitoring those consumers. So if it's 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and they walk into an open house or call a listing agent, and all of a sudden somebody says, oh yeah, and maybe they, it's been enough time that they don't necessarily have that tight bond, but now another lender's coming at them hard. You want to surface that. You want to know that. And so we've seen that really move the needle, 5-10 percentage points in some cases. Give me your thoughts on that. You've been deeply involved in this.
For absolutely. So using data intelligence to understand when to engage the customer at the right time. We know the prospecting stage and the home buyer shopping stage can last, 6-9 months. Some buyers even give up and then they re-engage after a year. So looking at your entire prospect portfolio that you've serviced and understanding, when they're re-engaging with even potentially another lender, that gives you another at bat to really gain that prospect and convert them into a transaction. Absolutely. Credit inquiry would be number one, listing alerts, even number two. Somebody that maybe got off the market, then lists their home a year later, that you may have not have transacted through, last time, but you get another at bat now because you're monitoring that prospect with intelligence.
And the question we always start with when we're having strategic conversations is, what do your numbers look like if you improved your conversion by 20%? Do the math. And it's actually not that difficult to get there. And a couple of the things that make a difference, the amount, the quality, the frequency, the variety of the communication, okay, meaning, do you incorporate video? Do you incorporate text? Are you hitting the other parties if it's already in transactional stage? Are you communicating with all of the relevant parties? Those are some of the key components. And then the component that we just spoke about, the customer intelligence, the data side of things, making sure that you have a source that is surfacing that in front of your salesperson, in front of your originator. We've worked with in the lending space for many years. And what's the classic thing that happens, right? I'm super great as a salesperson if somebody's ready to go today or next month or maybe 60 days. Where we see the drop off is 90 days. And the data, there's some variation in the data, but the trend is showing overwhelmingly the average sales cycle is becoming much, much longer than 90 days. So beyond that 90 days, you have to do certain things on behalf of your originators, on behalf of your salespeople, to make sure that customer is in the best position possible, which includes sounding the alarm bell if they're shopping with another lender, putting that in front of the originator with, hey, what do you need to do? And then also enabling the originator with, here's some really high quality communication and content and a framework, an automation framework, so they don't have to think about this stuff every day. And did I miss anything there? Or is that generally how we're thinking?
The only
about
thing that I would
moving?
add, Joe, is making sure that you touched on the kind of the other parties. Obviously, real estate agent being a key component of that in this purchase market. But those are insights that real estate agents don't have. So when you're bringing that intelligence and having those conversations with the real estate agent, those could be super meaningful to really build a better relationship and strengthen that relationship with that real estate agent, so you maximize the business you're getting from them.
Yeah. So protecting your pipeline, maximizing your conversion as a growth lever. And when we talk about some of these best practices, I know you and I are both really passionate on that. We talk to a lot of organizations, helping them with strategic planning and those types of things. And everybody's trying to save on cost, right? Everybody is trying to, so they don't want to spend more on marketing. They don't want to spend more on other things. So one of the natural things is, hey, let's just maximize everything we have in front of us and make less mistakes, right? And when you do that, It's shocking the amount of net new business that you can generate by just putting some of those best practices in place. So really great perspective and some tactical, very prescriptive things that as an organization you can do to maximize that pull through, that conversion, and really protect the pipeline. Use data to monitor it, right? Improve communication and be really purposeful and intentional about looking at how you're incubating those home buyers over not just 2-3 months, but 12-18 months. And then what else are we missing, buddy? What other suggestions do you have?
The one thing that we haven't talked about is, you have customers that come to you and they get, pre-qualified, right? So you have customers that go down the vanilla path, get qualified, great. They can move forward. You're going to generate a pre-approval with them. And then you have the customers that maybe you can't qualify today for a variety of reasons. Let's just take the number one reason that customers do not qualify today initially is, with credit. So making sure that you have established, credit improvement journeys and educational content on increasing that score, but also making sure that you're using intelligence to monitor that, so that when that consumer does improve their credit, follows that educational content, and gets their credit up to the certain level of that they could come back to you for approved, you're aware of that. You can re-engage the customer at the right time, communicate out through automated marketing in the right way. So those are great things. We're also, looking at maturing some of our, DTI would be the number 2 reason. So they don't have, they don't qualify because of maybe some student loan debt, maybe their income areas, maybe they get a promotion. So making sure that we understand when those consumers that didn't initially qualify now hit your threshold, now you can re-engage them. And that's a large portion of originators' prospect pipeline that they're just hitting the trash can today.
That's such a great point when you think about it. So many of the organizations, when you go into conversations that we've worked with historically, they talk about maximizing conversions, and that is always a blind spot, right? Is they don't necessarily look at that as a conversion lever or as an opportunity to increase conversion. It's like declined, and the sales teams, the customer facing teams are historically, they just kind of put those over here. Maybe they send it somewhere, but they don't really ever think about it again. And so what you're saying is ultimately using data and insights, intelligence to then surface that opportunity back, in addition to some really good high quality educational content about homebuyer readiness along the way, that those things added up really can move the needle. And we talk about, as one of our goals, let's improve your conversions by 20%. Well, that includes over the long haul, right? So really well said, man. Appreciate your feedback here, buddy. And, excited to continue talking about these topics and sharing some of these best practices. The interesting part is we continue to see it week over week. There's really 2 camps out there, right? There's the people that are ducking and covering and going into, I'm going to cut to the bone and play defense, which is arguably important in some cases. And there's the people that are saying, you know what? I get it. The market's changed. I'm going to play offense. I'm going to find ways to unlock growth. And these best practices that we're sharing are very much in the camp of how do we unlock growth without raising costs. So great conversation, man. We'll look forward to continuing the chat next time.
All right.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.